Throughout history, humanity has not only documented its triumphs and beauty, but also its darkness and grotesque realities. Disturbing content, whether in the form of literature, cinema, any kind of visual art, or even theatre, has always had a place in our cultural and psychological landscapes. Welcome. This is Check That Book, a special place on the internet where we get acquainted with arguably the most disturbing pieces of literature ever written, take a look at some of the film adaptations from time to time. I noticed that this has been a bit more popular as of late, so we're gonna do more book versus movie videos, but I've promised a while ago and I keenly wanted to do this, and here I am. This is my essay on the disturbing. Why do we, as creators and consumers, gravitate towards the horrific, the taboo, and deeply unsettling? Not all of us, mind you, but a great percentage of people out there, audiences. After all, grotesque horror films and psychological, disturbing horror sell. Disturbing books, even splatterpunk sells. Paintings, the more absurd and dark, the better. They sell. Yes, we could talk business, but let's start from the beginning, shall we? From the nightmarish paintings of Hieronymus Bosch to the nihilistic prose of the Marquis de Sade, and from the abject brutality of a Serbian film to modern true crime obsessions, disturbing content serves functions for more complex than mere shock value. Disturbing content is not a modern invention. Its roots can be traced back to ancient rituals and mythologies even. The Greek tragedies of Aeschylus and Euripides dealt with patricide, cannibalism, and divine vengeance. Even Shakespeare talks about it, and we've spoken about this on our channel. So this content is meant to provoke horror and reflection. In ancient rituals, depictions of death, suffering, or demonic forces were common, intended to either appease higher powers or exercise communal anxieties. Disturbing content has historically functioned as a mirror held up to both the self and society. It allows individuals to confront what is repressed or feared. The grotesque serves as a counterbalance to the ideal, suggesting that to fully understand beauty, we must first acknowledge ugliness. Artists have long employed the disturbing as means of expression and critique. You might not like it, but the majority of paintings are not of a pretty scenario. The paintings of Hieronymus Bosch, for example, about whom I have a whole video on this channel, link will be in the description, naturally, uh, teem with surreal depictions of hell, sin, spiritual punishment, and all sorts of disturbing materials. Yet, you can't help but look. Again, I feel like I've said this before, but you can't look away. Why is that? Out of fear? Out of curiosity? Maybe. Maybe. These images were not simply exercises in horror, but theological commentaries, visual sermons warning of damnation. Similarly, Francisco Goya's Saturn devouring his son channels madness and political despair through mythic imagery, capturing the Spanish artist's disillusionment with war and humanity. In literature, A prominent example would be the works by Marquis de Sade, most notoriously 120 Days of Sodom. They're all about exploration and provocation when you think about it. Sade's writings strip away the pretense of moral order to expose the primal and sadistic impulses underlying human behavior and authority. I mean, I didn't enjoy reading it, but I understand where he comes from. I condemn the bastards. But again, what was he trying to deliver there? Although banned and reviled, his work has been continuously studied for its philosophical implications about power, freedom, and desire. But in my opinion, not studied enough, as I'm starting to feel people made wrong conclusions and disregard such works as a mere display of violence. Violence for the sake of violence. Whilst possibly truth for a lot of people, we should be asking ourselves why this kind of behavior even exists. And more importantly, what can we do? What can be done to stop it, prevent it? I've mentioned this before on my channel, but disturbing literature, disturbing films, such content often teaches us a lesson, teaches us to be more vigilant, more attentive to details, to our own lives. It makes us pay attention, specifically involving children. I've started this channel with a book called The Groomer by John Athan, and I called it the Serbian film of literature. The link will be in the description. We'll talk about a Serbian film a bit later. So, I also view disturbing content as a way to convey a lesson. Some people need to see some messed up shit in order to understand that perhaps maybe certain places, certain people, and certain situations should be avoided. In cinema, disturbing content found renewed potency in the 20th and 21st centuries. Pier Paolo Pasolini's Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom, based on the same de Sade's work, used sexual violence and degradation to denounce fascism. Later, a Serbian film, in 2010, pushed the boundaries of cinematic acceptability, shocking audiences globally. While widely condemned, some critics argue that the film is brutal allegory of post-war Serbian trauma and political disillusionment. Now, I'd like to get this out of the way once and for all. A Serbian film is not a bad movie. This film is always looked down upon because of its controversial gore. But if you actually look beyond all of that when watching this film, you realize just how honest it is in its core. Let me try to explain. Like it or not, we are screwed almost immediately since birth, and even up until after death. I mean, even the funerals are costly as fuck, even the most modest ones. This film is a metaphor for not only whatever the bumfuck was going on in Serbia at the time, it also reflects the model we are all forced to live by all over the world. Those in power have full fucking control over us, and they distract us with mundane crap, quite successfully if you ask me. We are pointed in the wrong direction time and time again. Our attention is shifted to somewhere else, anywhere else but the sad realities that we're all living. And I'm not going political on this channel, don't get me wrong, so I shall stop right now with this one, but we should focus on why we are here today, which is the disturbing art in all of its variations and forms. But if you think about it for a second, the ugly, distorted capitalistic model we live by is disturbing on its own. The world is the biggest TV show there is, and our lives are rather meticulously choreographed. But yeah, enough about that. Besides, a Serbian film is very well produced. It's a powerful movie with a powerful message that can serve also as a powerful wake up call if you can stomach it, of course. I understand this is not for everyone, not everyone can sit through this. But if you have a strong stomach and emotional intelligence and a dash of curiosity, I say you should go for it. Just brace yourselves. This movie does not shy away from anything. I believe it had to be this gory and infamous in order to actually get out there, get talked about. Negative fame is also fame and will eventually bear fruit.
Cela ova naša jebena zemlja je jedno veliko jebeno obdanište, moj Miloše. Obor dece koje su roditelji odbacili. Znaš ti kako je to? Jebeš se, piješ, krvariš, privređuješ, radiš sve! Sve što traže od tebe da bi opstao pre nego što umreš.
Dobro, ja već vidim da si ti lud, ne moraš to da mi dokazuješ. Samo mi reci, kakve to sve veze ima s pornografijom, molim te?
Ne pornografiju. Što nije pornografija, Miloše? To je život. Život jedne žrtve. Ljubav. Umetnost. Krv. Meso i duša te žrtve. U direktnom prenosu svetu koji je sve to izgubio. Sve i zato debelo plaća da bi iz udobnosti svoje fotelje mogo da gleda.
Now, why would audiences even seek out such disturbing works? We're getting closer to it now. Psychologically, disturbing content allows for what Freud called the return of the repressed. These materials externalize internal fears of death, pain, insanity, and the body's vulnerability. Horror, in particular, invokes a safe yet visceral simulation of danger. Some theorists compare this to riding a roller coaster, a controlled encounter with fear, one that leaves us more alive afterward. Disturbing content also creates emotional distance. Through the lens of fiction or metaphor, we can process unspeakable realities such as war, abuse, mortality. They might otherwise be unbearable. Consider Holocaust literature like Jerzy Kosinski's The Painted Bird or Elfriede Jelinek's The Piano Teacher, which delve into trauma and sexual pathology, not to titillate but to confront the reader with uncomfortable truths. Disturbing content also serves as a form of rebellion. It breaks taboos and exposes hypocrisy of social norms, much like my rant about a Serbian film earlier. But there's a plethora of other examples, such as Bret Easton Ellis's American Psycho, the works by George Orwell. In cinema, Michael Haneke's works, any work by Yorgos Lanthimos, a Greek director I admire very much, even John Waters' sickening film, The Pink Flamingos. Even in drama, Antonin Artaud's Theatre of Cruelty proposed that art must assault the senses to awaken the audience from moral slumber. And that is precisely what those works are aiming to do, are aiming to achieve. More recently, works like Lars von Trier's Antichrist or Gaspar Noé's Irreversible have used disturbing imagery to confront viewers with the raw emotional and existential weight of grief, misogyny, and time. These are not easy watches, nor are they meant to be. But their function lies precisely in their difficulty. They resist consumption as entertainment and instead demand confrontation and critique. The internet has complicated the landscape of disturbing content. Now, real atrocities circulate alongside fictional horror, and for some, this might not just be offensive, it's purely confusing, really. You can't differentiate between true crime cases and fiction anymore sometimes, which is why disclaimers are ever so important. And like I mentioned, if you're emotionally mature and intelligent enough, you will get through this. This raises ethical questions, no doubt. It also highlights a persistent human impulse to look into the abyss. Curiosity about death and violence, once contained in sacred texts, theatre, or literature, has now become democratized and often sensationalized. Yet this accessibility has not diluted our need for disturbing art. If anything, it's sharpened the difference between exploitative content and that which uses the disturbing to provoke thought, compassion, or reform. To dismiss disturbing content as mere shock is to ignore its ancient, multifaceted role in human culture. And I understand that this is by far not everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone can stomach this, and this is understandable. But to simply dismiss it like that, as if it's just a consumption material for sick individuals or a fuel for grotesque inspiration? No, you guys. Again, if you have an okay stomach, some emotional intelligence, you can understand and even appreciate such content, not for what it showcases, but for what it speaks about in between the lines. Unfortunately, it works this way. As long as there is suffering, there will be a need to represent it. The grotesque reminds us of what we are capable of as victims and perpetrators, as bodies and minds, and in doing so, compels us to reckon with our deepest contradictions. Disturbing content exists because human experience is not reducible to just beauty and harmony. That will be a lie to ourselves. There is pain, cruelty, absurdity, and evil, and to ignore these is to render art dishonest. As philosopher Theodor Adorno wrote in response to Auschwitz, to write poetry after Auschwitz is barbaric, but to not write at all may be worse. Art must wrestle with the unacceptable because life itself often does. Do I like disturbing content? Well, yes, I do. I've started this channel after all. But I like it not because I'm a sick individual looking for grotesque imagery and sick inspiration, but because I like to dig a bit deeper. And perhaps an ex-psychology student in me yearns for more information on the human psyche and desperately tries to find solutions as to how we could potentially counterbalance it. When I was in high school, my favorite to-go one-liner would be, "Life is not pretty." I've always said it and I'll keep on saying it. Yes, true, life is not pretty, but nor is it ugly. It's life. Life is not black and white. Life is 50 shades of grey. I hate that reference. If you are a fan of the disturbing, by a fan I mean just a curious mind, an admirer of the genre, it is okay. I don't believe that people like us should be frowned upon because of our morbid curiosity or of our desire to talk about such things and consume such content in order to appreciate the best parts of life even more. I think I've spoken about this on live stream. I've spoken about this in some of my previous videos. Content such as this makes you want to just go and hug your dog afterwards. Go and hug your mum, your spouse, your children if you have any. It makes you appreciate what you have and be alert. Unfortunately, such is the world. We need to be on our guard. And in confronting the disturbing, we do not lose our humanity. We reclaim it by refusing to look away.